Hi there. Welcome back to day 2 of our live class on Claude AI for Everyday Nigeria. I'm really sorry you are seeing me alone in this um, class at this moment. The actual class held earlier today, but unfortunately, I forgot to turn on my microphone, so all the recording was without an audio. Although the class was hearing me because um, the laptop audio was on, but sorry, the laptop microphone was on, but this wasn't on, and I can't use the laptop microphone for that recording. Okay, so I have to repeat the entire recording for the public. I'm sure next time I will do my proper check before the class starts. Also, I'm also sorry for forgetting this again the second time. I should have used my iPhone as my video source, but I'm still using my laptop webcam, hence the look of my face on the laptop, right? Okay, so without saying much, let's kickstart the class. Last week we had an introduction on AI as well as an introduction on Claude, but today we are going deeper into something much more interesting, and we'll have much of that as the day goes by. So, as I said, we're covering document preparations today, and we'll learn a lot on what Claude can do for us with regards to document preparations. So permit me now to turn on my slide so we can get on the class. So I'm going to share my slide with us. I'm going to share my slide with us now and take it up from there. I'm sure we can see me. Okay, let me just a minute, please. Oh, okay, sorry. Let me just do this. Sorry for that, please. Let me show it again. Okay. Now I need to. Okay. Now we're talking about document preparations, which of course covers agreement, proposals, presentations, letters, and review. What this section is going to talk about today is business agreements, winning proposals, and then presentations and reviews. Documents are the foundation of professional life in Nigeria. Agreements protect your business. Proposals win contract. Letters communicate your authority. Presentations secure findings. This module teaches you how to use Claude AI to produce all of this quickly, professionally, and correctly without needing a secretary, lawyer, or copyright on standby. Okay? Now, business agreement and legal documents. Understanding business agreement and why they matter. Many Nigerian business relationships operate on handshakes, phone calls, and verbal understanding. This approach works until it does not. When a client refuses to pay, when a partner claims ownership of something that was not theirs when suppliers deliver substandard goods and denies it. The absence of a written agreement becomes an expensive problem, right? A business agreement is a written document that records what two or more parties have agreed to do, what each party will receive in return, and what happens if anyone fails to deliver. In Nigeria today, written agreements are enforceable in court under the law of contract, provided they meet basic requirements. There must be an offer, an acceptance, consideration, something of value exchanged, and the parties must have the legal capacity to agree. Not every agreement needs a lawyer to draft. Many everyday business agreements, service contract, vendor agreement, supplier contract, freelance agreement, or basic partnership agreement follow standard structure that Claude can produce accurately. Where you should involve a lawyer is for high value transactions above 5 million, complex agreement with significant legal risk, property transfers, or any situations where the relationship is likely to be contentious, right? Now, this lesson gives you the foundational knowledge you need before using Claude to draft agreements. Understanding the key components every contract must contain, the most common Nigerian business agreements, types, and mistakes most business owners make when operating without written agreement. With this knowledge, you will be more informed. You'll be a more informed user of Claude drafting capabilities in the lessons that follow. Okay, we've talked about this. Now, what makes contract legally binding? 1, it has an offer. 2, it has an acceptance. 3, considerations, which of course involve exchange. 4, it has legal capacity of both parties. Now, let's move into drafting a service agreement and vendor contract, right? We'll show us a sample prompt that we can practice after this time, right, to understand how really this works. Now, drafting service agreement and vendor contract. Service agreements are the most common type of business agreement in Nigeria. Every time you hire a consultant, engage a freelancer, or retain a marketing agency, or even hire a cleaning company, or take on a client for your own services, a service agreement should be in place. Again, a service agreement should be in place. This lesson teaches you exactly how to use Claude to prompt this document. The critical insight is that the quality of Claude output depends almost entirely on the quality of information you provide. Claude cannot guess what your specific agreement needs to say. You must tell it. Before approaching Claude, gather the full legal names of both parties, not just trading names, what service is being provided, and what the deliverables are. The payment amount, the payment schedule, and payment method, the timeline, and any key milestones. What happens if either party needs to exit the agreement early, and any specific protections you need. Intellectual property ownership, confidentiality, non-compete. A vendor contract has slightly different emphasis, focusing on product quality, standard delivery, focusing on product quality standard, delivery schedules, payment terms, inspection rights, rejection procedures, and liability for defective goods. Claude handles both types of confidently, but you need to be specific about what type you need and what your situation involves. This lesson walks you through 3 complete examples: a service level agreement, a typical marketing agency, and a client, a vendor supply agreement between a manufacturer and a distributor, and a freelance agreement for a specific designer. For each one, you will see the full prompt used, Claude output, and how to review and refine it. By the end, you will be able to produce any specific or vendor agreement in under 10 minutes. Now, you look at this. This is a draft service level agreement, and it says draft a service agreement between Emmanuel Consulting Limited, in brackets, service provider, and Sunrise Foods Nigeria Limited, in bracket, client, for monthly social media engagement at 150K per month for 6 months, including a 14-day payment clause, IP ownership clause stating all content belong to the client, confidentiality clause, and a 30-day termination clause governed by the laws of Cross River states. Right? Now, this is a sample, as I mentioned, that you are going to put together and see how Claude will put up a professional and compelling service level agreement for you. Right? Now, lesson 3, which of course has to do with employment contract, NDAs, and partnership agreements. 3 categories of business owner relationship carry the highest risk when not properly documented: employment relationship, a relationship involving confidential information, and business partnership. This lesson addresses all 3. Employment contract in Nigeria must be consistent with the Labor Act and relevant state laws. A competent employment contract specifies the position of a job description, the salary, and how and when it is paid, leave entitlement, annual leaves, sick leaves, maternity and paternity leave, notice period or for resignation or termination, grounds for summary dismissal, probationary period terms, and dispute resolution. When drafting with Claude, you must specify this element clearly and instruct Claude to ensure the document is consistent with Nigerian Law Act requirements. Peradventure, you are not a Nigerian and you are a citizen of a different country, this applies still to your own country, right? So make sure you are using the labor law of your own country, right? In case you are watching outside of Nigeria and you are a citizen of a different country beside Nigeria, make sure you tell Claude to apply it to the law act of your own country. Now, non-disclosure agreement. This is very, very key. Very, very key. It's not every agreement you share with your staff, your client, or customer that requires a third party to know, right? So once whoever you give in this document makes it known to the third party, they've broken the agreement and you are capable of suing them. Non-disclosure agreement is critical whenever you share confidential business information with a potential investor, a technical consultant, a joint venture partner, or a new employee who has access to sensitive system or data. Claude can draft a strong NDA, but you must specify what constitutes confidential information in your specific situation, how long the obligation lasts, and what remedies you want in case of breach. Partnership agreements, on the other hand, are perhaps the most important document any business partnership can have, and the most commonly reflected in Nigeria. When partners fall out over profit sharing, decision-making authority, or the direction of the business, the absence of a written partnership agreement makes disputes extremely difficult to resolve. Claude can draft a comprehensive partnership agreement covering profit and loss sharing ratios, decision-making authority, capital contributions, partnership exit procedures, and dissolution processes. Okay, so we've learned 3 things right now. 3 areas Claude can be of use when it comes to employment contract, NDAs, and partnership. And I'm sure you've learned a lot, but as a way of summarizing, let's look at what we have learned now. A binding contract needs an offer, acceptance, consideration, and legal capacity. Claude can draft standard service vendor and freelance agreement accurately, so I encourage you to use it. Employment contract must reflect the Nigerian Act, not just company preference. NDAs and partnership agreements prevent the most common and costly business disputes. So now we're getting into section 2, and that covers business proposals that win. Okay, so let's look at what we have here. The structure of a winning Nigerian business proposal. The structure of a winning Nigerian business proposal. A business proposal is your single most important sales document. It is the difference between winning a contract worth millions of naira and losing it to a competitor whose work may not even be better than yours. Most Nigerian proposals fail not because the business cannot deliver, but because the proposal was poorly structured, too generic, or failed to demonstrate understanding of what the client actually needs. The structure of a winning proposal follows a logic that experienced clients recognize immediately. You show them what you understand. You show them that you understand their problem. You present a specific solution. You prove you are capable of delivering it. You make the financial case clear, and you make it easy for them to say yes. A complete proposal contains 10 scenarios in a specific order, an executive summary that captures the entire proposal in one compelling paragraph, a client situation section that demonstrates your deep understanding of their problem or need, a proposed solution section that describes specifically what you will do, a scope of work that details exactly what is included, and implicitly what is not, a delivery timeline with specific milestones, a pricing and investment section that justifies your fee, an about us section showing relevant experience, a why choose us section with your key differentiators, a terms and conditions section covering payment terms and other key commercial points, and a call to action specifying exactly what the client needs to do next. Claude can write all 10 sections, but it needs you to provide the raw materials. Excuse me. In this lesson, you will learn exactly what information to gather before you sit down with Claude to write a proposal and how to organize that information into a prompt that produces a genuinely useful first draft rather than a generic template. Okay, so here are the 10 sections I mentioned that Claude requires that you know and you put down, right? When you know this and you put them down, you make it work easy for Claude to do, instead of having to have several revisions of the same document. So Claude requires you to first write down, okay, even if you don't know what to write here, but just tell it, okay, this is what I want to write. And in writing that proposal, make sure you include the executive summary, the client situation. If you can add a client situation here, because you know what the client's issues are. So you write it down for Claude, and then if possible, you write your own proposed solution and ask Claude to enhance on that. Write your scope of work, because you are the one who will go to do the work. Delivery timeline, if you know it. Pricing and investment, of course, you are the one to fix the price. Claude can only suggest and put what call placeholders for you there. Then about you, Claude cannot write about you. You are the one that will write about you, except if you've been working with Claude to develop concept about you. Then why choose us that it can do. Terms and conditions, it can also help you write that since it understands you. Then final and most very important, call to action. Call to action, very important, right? Now, this is another example of a prompt that you can give to Claude to help you put up such. To write a business proposal from your, put your business name there, to a real hypothetical client, put your client name there, proposing whatever service you want to propose. You mention your fields. The fields is you have 10 years of experience. The proposal should be formal, confident, structured for a type of, you mentioned that, add these 10 lessons, and then if you want, you can tell it approximate number of words that it should not exceed, right? You know this much better if, all right? So this is what you can tell Claude, and it will do that for you. Okay, so let's get into lesson 5, which is writing proposals for government contract and tenders. Government contract represents some of the largest business opportunities available to Nigerian companies. Yet, many businesses either do not pursue them or submit proposals that are immediately disqualified on technical grounds. This lesson specifically addresses the requirement of Nigerian government procurement. The Nigerian public procurement process, governed by the Public Procurement Act and overseen by the Bureau of Public Procurement, BPP, has specific requirements that differ from private sector proposals. Government tenders specifically require a pre-qualification submission, of course, which include a company profile, registration documents, audited account, relevant experience, before a technical and financial proposal is requested. Understanding this two-stage process prevents the common mistakes of jumping straight to a proposal when the government first needs to qualify your company your company's eligibility, rather. Technical proposals for government contracts must respond precisely to the terms of reference, TOR, issued by the ministry or agency. Claude is extremely useful here. You paste the TOR and Claude helps you structure a point-to-point response that demonstrates compliance with every requirement. Organize your methodology clearly and present your team's qualification in the format government evaluators expect. Financial proposals for government work must follow the specific pricing template provided in the tender document. Claude can help you develop a clear, justified cost breakdown, write the assumptions underlying your pricing, and present your fees in a transparent, audited way that government procurement officers require. This lesson works through a complete government tender process, from receiving the expression of interest through pre-qualification to technical and financial proposal submission using Claude at each stage. And that you see here, expression of interest, government issued by the opportunity publicly, then pre-qualifications. You as a company submit company profile, CSA document, audited account. Then technical proposal, respond point by point to the terms of reference, transparent, justified cost breakdown. Now, if you look here at the bottom, you see what is written there. Paste the terms of TOR, paste the terms of reference document, and ask Claude to structure a point-by-point compliance review, right? And see what you do. But I know you may not have one at the moment, but just giving you an idea that peradventure tomorrow, or you know someone that is pursuing government contract, Claude can help you put it together or guide you on how to complete the entire process. Okay? So, in conclusively, in summary, section 2, we have learned a winning proposal follows a proven 10-section structure, and not just a generic template which you can download anywhere. Also, you have written a real proposal draft using your own business detail. You've learned government tenders require a 2-step process: pay for location and then proposal. And the last thing is, if you have a TOR document, you can paste it and let Claude structure a compliant response for you, right? Okay, now we're moving on to section 3, and we'll see what it means there to write presentations, letters, and document review. Okay, right now we're on section 3, which involves presentations, letters, document review. So we're going to talk about creating powerful presentations with Claude. Please, this is very important, very, very important. You know, and a lot of people before this time spend money paying a consultant on quite a number of things they shouldn't even do, and also paying for what we call infograph platforms. But with Claude, some of this fees you pay was drastically reduced, if not come to an end to a point. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that you shouldn't pay consultants to do some work for you, but when they're basic to intermediate, you can actually do that, especially with third-party platforms like Claude, right? But however, too, there's an extent of Claude you use, it will not require you to have a paid license, right? Okay, I'm not using the free version. I'm using the paid version, and I know what I'm getting from it. It's not much. The fee is not much. If you can afford it, pay annually at $17 per month, and it will help you accomplish a lot. So in this lesson, we're going to talk about creating powerful presentations with Claude. As you can see there, it says Claude cannot open PowerPoint directly, but it does something far more time-consuming and valuable, right? It designs the architecture of your presentation and write all the content. The formatting in PowerPoint is quick work. The thinking and writing is where most presenters spend most of their time, and Claude eliminates that bottleneck entirely. Every professional presentation follows a narrative arc. It takes the audience from a starting point, what they know and believe now, to a destination, what you want them to know, believe, or do. Before writing a single slide, you need to define this arc. What is the starting point? What does your audience currently know or think? What is the destination? What decision, action, or understanding do you want from them? What is the journey? The logo sequence of information that moves them from starting to destination. Claude can help you design this arc before writing a single slide. Describe your audience, your objective, your context, and the key information you need to convey, and ask Claude to propose a presentation structure before any context is written. Review the structure, adjust it until it makes sense. Then ask Claude to write the content for each slide, one section at a time, or all at once. For each slide, Claude produces a title, the body's context, 3 to 5 bullet points, or a paragraph and optional speaker note explaining what the presenter should say. This gives you everything you need to create the presentation, a PowerPoint or Google slide in minutes. This lesson covers these 5 most common presentation types for Nigerian professionals: investors pitch deck, client capability presentations, project updates, briefing, training, and workshop presentations, and academic or confidence presentations. Each has its own structural logic and audience expectations that Claude understands and applies. Now here are the key Claude design architecture and that you expect to know actually. Now when Claude can help you with the investor pitch deck, problem, solution, market size, acts, client capability deck, your service experience and differentiators, project updates, progress blocker, next step. Now training materials. Now if you see again at the bottom here, you see an assignment there. It said design a 10-slide investor pitch structure for your business idea, then write the content for each slide. You try this and you see how Claude will help you accomplish that. Okay, this is a real life reality. Even if you don't have a business, just create a scenario and see what Claude can help you achieve. Okay, now let's talk about professional letters for every situation. Professional letters for every situation. Professional letters are required constantly in Nigeria, in Nigerian professional and business life. Landlords send rent notices. Businesses send demand letters for unpaid invoices. Employees write resignation letters. Parents send consent letters for school trips. Businesses write to government agencies requesting approvals, importers write to customers. All of these documents have specific formats, tones required, and required elements that differ from casual communication. Claude has learned from thousands of examples of professionals' correspondence and can produce correctly formatted, appropriately toned letters for any professional situation. The key is telling Claude what type of letter you need, all the relevant facts, and the tone you want to achieve. Demand letters for unpaid debt must be firm but professional. They establish a paper trail that is critical if the matter goes to court. Claude will include the specific amount owed, the original due date, the correct date, and the demand for payment by a specific deadline, and the consequences of non-payment, all in language that is assertive without being threatening in any way that could undermine a future legal case. Letters to government agencies, for example, FIRS, CSC, NAFDAC, CBN, NCC, a ministry, a local government, require formal tone, specific referencing, and often must quote the specific regulation or provision being relied on. Claude knows the formal conventions these institutions expect and can produce correspondences that reads as if written by an experienced professional. Consent letters, reference letters, letters of introduction, and letters of undertaking all follow different conventions. This lesson covers all of them with real examples from Nigerian context. School consent, medical consent, travel consent, for minors, employment letters, and bank undertaking letters, right? So we talked about 4 now. As you can see here, demand letters. They must be firm by professionals, right? Create a legal paper trail for unpaid debt. Now you also have the government correspondences, formal tone matching the mentioned agencies. Consent letters are used. There's a lot. All right, there's a lot. Consent letters precede the actual. Consent letter should not go beyond 2 pages, max 2 pages, but you can put them all in 1 page if there are not too many areas of concern. But if the entire proposal is focused on one, then 1 page should be enough, right? Now, reference letters, more specific, persuasive recommendations for employment or academia. Okay, so the next thing we'll do right now is document review. How Claude can help you understand that before you sign. This is very, very key. That's happened to me, and I had to add it to this course to make more impact in what we do. Now, the most costly professional mistake many Nigerians make in any document they do not fully understand. Bank loans agreements contain clauses that allow the bank to take actions you do not expect. Employment contracts contain one complete provision that limits your future career options. Tenancy agreements contain terms that allow landlords to enter your premises without notice. Supply contracts contain liabilities, clauses that make you responsible for things outside your control. Claude can help you understand all of these before you sign, okay? Before you sign, make sure you read and possibly upload to Claude and ask it to review, show you gray areas you need to note, and flag important areas you need to correct. The process is straightforward. You paste the text of the document into Claude and ask it to analyze specific elements. The most powerful approach is to ask Claude to perform 3 tasks at once, which include summarize what the document says in plain language, identify any clauses that are unfavorable or unusual to you and the other party, to you actually most importantly, and flag anything missing that should normally be in the document or in this type of document rather. For loan agreements, Claude will identify the effective interest rate, which is often higher than the advertised rate when fees are included. Repayment penalties, cross-default clauses, where defaulting on one obligation triggers default on the other, and the collateral provision that could put your assets at risk. For tenancy agreement, Claude identifies clauses that rent increases. Let me take that again. For tenancy agreement, Claude identified clauses about rent increases, notice periods, subletting restrictions, deposit return conditions, and maintenance responsibilities. All areas that commonly lead to landlord-tenant disputes in Nigeria. For employment contract, Claude flags unusual non-compete clauses, intellectual property assignments, provisions common in tech companies, performance review standard that could be used to justify termination, and any provisions that conflict with the Law Act. This lesson teaches you how to use Claude as your first line of document review, reducing your dependency on paying lawyers for every document review, while knowing when a document is complex enough that professional legal review is still warranted, right? So, having gone through all of this, let's do a test. This you can do. You do that by typing this prompt in your own Claude, whether you're using desktop or phone, whatever. Type this prompt there and see what Claude will do for you. Say, I'm about to sign a business loan agreement with a Nigerian bank. Please review it and number one, summarize the key obligations. Number 2, identify any clauses that are unusual or unfavorable to me. And number 3, flag anything I should push back before signing. Now, if it's something you actually have, maybe an agreement from a bank or wherever, just paste it in and see what Claude will do there for you. Right, this is key. This is very, very key. Right, so I suggest we do that and see what Claude will do for us. Now, having done all of this, we've come to the end of section 3, and so far we've learned that Claude designs presentation structure and writes every slide content for us. Every professional letter type has its own format, demand, government, consent, reference. Now, if you have any of these, you can paste any document to Claude for a plain language risk analysis before you sign. Loan agreements deserve special scrutiny, effective rates, penalties, and collateral terms, right? So far, we've covered in section 1, legally binding agreement, employment contract, NDAs, and partnership agreement. In section 2, we talked about the 10-step proposal structure and government tender process. And in section 3, we talked about presentations professional letters, and document review. So far, you've learned all of this. Now you can practice this by when draft one agreement you actually need using Claude, draft it, and write a business proposal for a real or hypothetical client using 10 structure. Paste any document you have and ask Claude for a risk analysis. Write down one question for Module 2 deep research and analysis, right? So the next class we're going to take up in a few minutes in the next video right now is Module 2, which is deep research and analysis, business research, market analysis, and document summarization. Okay, now so far I want to say thank you for joining us, and I hope everything you've learned in this class is useful to you and you'll find it more interesting. Okay, so thank you and see you in the next class, and God bless you. Remain available all the time as we progress in the next lectures. Okay, thank you so much.